In the shadows of Los Angeles, during a time when crime seemed to pulse through every major city, a disturbing pattern was unfolding. The late 1970s into the 1980s brought a wave of violence that went largely ignored by those meant to protect. Black women, many living in South Los Angeles, were being found dead, some left on the roadside, others hidden in alleyways. Their lives ended in brutal, eerily similar ways. Yet despite the repeated patterns, the cases remained unlinked, unspoken, and unprioritized. Over 50 women, gone. Still, no urgency from the police. No headlines. No justice. This wasn't just a time of crime, it was a time of neglect. South LA was unraveling. The once vibrant neighborhood was being drained of opportunity. Factories closed, jobs vanished, and crack cocaine took root, bringing with it chaos and despair. The police were overwhelmed, or perhaps indifferent. Either way, women kept disappearing, and the killer kept hunting. Among all this silence, one man blended in perfectly. He was someone you'd pass on the street and never look twice at. Friendly. A father. A neighbor. He lived a quiet life on the outside, but behind closed doors, he was keeping dark secrets, and even darker trophies. His name was Lonnie Franklin Jr., and he would later be known as the Grim Sleeper. The nickname came from what appeared to be a long gap in his crimes, sleep, between murders. But when investigators eventually caught up with him, they realized the truth was far more disturbing. He hadn't stopped, he'd just gotten better at hiding. When police finally searched his home in 2010, what they found was chilling. Hidden in drawers, photo albums, and storage boxes were hundreds of photographs, mostly of women. Some smiling, some asleep, others clearly unconscious or worse. Many of them were never reported missing. Many remain unidentified to this day. It was a graveyard built out of images, a private archive of lives taken or exploited, all under the roof of a man who lived like any other family man. His arrest shook the community, but it also opened wounds that had never healed. Families who'd long believed their daughters, sisters, or mothers had been forgotten were now being forced to relive the pain with new evidence, and new questions. Why had it taken so long? Why hadn't their cases mattered back then? Franklin was eventually convicted of 10 murders, but police believe the number could be far higher. He died in prison in 2020 before many families ever got the answers they deserved. This story isn't just about a serial killer. It's about a city that turned its back on its most vulnerable. It's about women who deserve to be heard, protected, and remembered. And it's about the deep scars left behind when justice comes far too late. Los Angeles in the late 1970s and early 1980s wasn't just a city of movie stars and palm trees. It was also a city unraveling, gripped by a rising crime wave and the devastation of crack cocaine, with black neighborhoods hit hardest and help arriving last. While serial killers seem to be lurking in every major American city, from the Son of Sam in New York to John Wayne Gacy in Chicago, LA had its own gallery of nightmares. The Night Stalker, the Hillside Strangler, and quietly, in the shadows of South LA, another monster was beginning a terrifying spree, mostly unnoticed. His name was Lonnie Franklin Jr. But the world would come to know him by a far more chilling title, the Grim Sleeper. Lonnie's early life didn't raise many red flags. He was born and raised in Los Angeles and showed an early fascination with cars. By age 7, he was already behind the wheel, taught by his father. As he grew, he became a skilled mechanic, the kind of guy neighbors would trust with their engines, and maybe even their secrets. He was charming, too. People liked him. Women liked him. He could carry a conversation and smile in all the right places. But there were cracks beneath the surface. At 16, Lonnie was arrested for grand theft auto. Then burglary. He was beginning to spiral. Wanting to straighten him out, his father encouraged him to enlist in the army, and Lonnie agreed. In 1974, at 21 years old, he was stationed in Stuttgart, Germany. That's where something dark inside him fully emerged. One April night in 1974, Lonnie and 2 army buddies were out driving after midnight when they spotted a young girl walking alone. Her name was Ingrid, just 17, on her way to catch a train after visiting her boyfriend. The men slowed the car beside her, calling out. Harmless at first, asking for directions, offering her a ride. Whether it was fear, politeness, or a sense of helplessness, Ingrid eventually got in the car. That's when her nightmare began. They drove to a secluded area, pulled out a knife, and forced her to stay silent. Then, one after the other, the 3 men brutally assaulted her. During the attack, Ingrid noticed flashes, camera flashes. Someone was taking pictures. As if the violence alone wasn't enough, they were trying to preserve it. And then, in a twist that says everything about the casual cruelty of these men, they didn't even plan to kill her. They actually drove her back toward the train station. But Ingrid wasn't broken. As the car neared town, she played along, calm, composed, even flirtatious. She convinced Lonnie that she liked him, that they could see each other again. And it worked. Lonnie gave her his name and address. As soon as she was free, Ingrid went to the police. She remembered his face, the flashes, the car, everything. And thanks to her, all 3 men were arrested and eventually sentenced by a military tribunal. But Lonnie served just a year in prison for what he did. After his release, he returned to Los Angeles. Smiling, fixing cars, raising a son, living like a normal man. All while carrying a sickness that never went away. Ingrid didn't panic, not when they forced her into the car. Not when the camera flashed in the dark. And not when they dropped her off like she was disposable. She stayed calm, she stayed smart, and before Lonnie let her go, she played her final card, pretending to be interested in him. Flirting, even, it was twisted, but it worked. Lonnie gave her his phone number. Once Ingrid was free, she wasted no time. She went straight to the hospital and then to the police. She didn't just report what happened, she came with names, details, a face, and most importantly, a direct line to her attacker. The German authorities knew exactly who they were looking for, 3 American servicemen. One of them, Lonnie Franklin Jr., but Ingrid wasn't done yet. She called him, sweet, friendly, like nothing had happened. She told him she wanted to see him again. That she couldn't stop thinking about him. She invited him to meet her at the train station on May 6th, just weeks after the attack. Lonnie fell for it, hard. He showed up believing he was about to get lucky again. He had no idea that just beyond the platform, in the shadows, police officers were waiting for Ingrid's signal. And she gave it. The moment she saw him, she dropped a handkerchief, just as planned. Officers emerged from cover and surrounded him in seconds. He never saw it coming. Within days, the other 2 soldiers involved in the attack were arrested as well. Justice, almost. The trial didn't drag on. It lasted just 8 days. Ingrid testified in court, face to face with the men who had stolen so much from her. She stood there, steady and strong, and told her truth. In the end, all 3 were convicted of rape and kidnapping. But here's the part that's hard to swallow. Lonnie Franklin Jr. was sentenced to just 3 years and 4 months in prison. 3 years, for destroying a life. He served just a little over 1 year before being released and sent back to Los Angeles. Free, untouched, unwatched, he returned home like any other veteran. He started working again as a mechanic. Had a child, settled into a quiet life on a street filled with families. And no one, had any idea what was still hiding inside him. You'd think a conviction like that would follow a man forever. But Lonnie Franklin Jr., he served less than a year behind bars. Just like that, he was released early, and no one really knows why. Not even the LAPD. One of the detectives who later hunted him, Darren Dupree, said it best. Greater than, his accomplices did their full time. Lonnie, he just disappeared from the system. Maybe it was good behavior. Maybe it was something else. Either way, the justice system let him go. And that decision would cost lives. When Lonnie was discharged from the army, he returned to Los Angeles. Back to the same home where he grew up, a modest house his parents had lived in for decades. Over time, it would become his home, too. A generational place. Familiar. Almost wholesome. It's strange how horror can grow roots in comfort. At first, Lonnie drifted, odd jobs here and there. He even worked briefly as a garage attendant for the LAPD. That didn't last. Eventually, he took a city job with the sanitation department, picking up trash across Los Angeles. And weirdly, it suited him. No one questioned him. No one looked too close. He wore the uniform, did the work, and quietly faded into the backdrop of the city. But in his neighborhood, he wasn't invisible. He was a fixture. Lonnie Franklin was the guy who always had time for a neighbor. He was always outside, tinkering with cars, mowing the lawn, waving hello. People liked him, trusted him, needed him. If your car broke down, Lonnie could fix it. If you were short on rent, he might lend you cash. He'd share a beer, offer a ride, lend a hand. To those around him, Lonnie wasn't just a neighbor, he was the neighbor. The guy you could count on. A friendly face, a helping hand. The double life begins. But there was something darker. Lonnie had strong opinions about who belonged in the neighborhood, and who didn't. He hated sex workers. He despised crack users. If he saw someone he didn't like, he'd yell at them, chase them off the block, warn them never to come back. He claimed to be cleaning up the neighborhood. But some believe this wasn't just about pride or safety. It was control. It was about power. And soon, it would become much more than that. People in South Central LA used to say, "Lonnie's the best. He keeps our neighborhood safe." But as it turns out, Lonnie Franklin Jr. wasn't a protector. He was a predator, hiding in plain sight. Honestly, he reminds me a lot of John Wayne Gacy. Everyone loved him. No criminal record. Friendly, helpful, charismatic even. So when Lonnie did something a little off, people just laughed it off. Oh, that's just Lonnie. Bit of a weirdo. Let me tell you what kind of weirdo we're talking about. He kept photos of naked women in the glove compartment of his orange Ford Pinto. Not just any photos. Women in bizarre, degrading poses. Some fully nude, some with their butt cheeks spread. These weren't just racy shots, they were trophies. If anyone stumbled on them, Lonnie would just chuckle, greater than, "Oh, those. That's just me being me." And somehow, people bought it. Is that normal? I don't know, I'm not a dude. I keep pictures of dogs in my glove box. Not my dogs. Which, I guess, is also creepy in its own way. But back to Lonnie. Those photos. That behavior. That should have been a red flag. Instead, everyone just shrugged. Because no one wanted to believe the truth. Greater than this man was a monster. In the mid-1980s, Los Angeles was brutal, especially in South Central. The crack epidemic was surging. Violence was constant, but one horror stood out. Young black women were being murdered. In 1985 alone, over a dozen were found dumped, naked, beaten, shot, in alleys, dumpsters, or just left on the side of the road like trash. And guess who was right there, right in the middle of it all? Lonnie Franklin. He was repeating what he'd done in Germany. Only now, he was more careful, more experienced, and terrifyingly invisible. His known victims that we know of. We may never know how many women Lonnie truly killed. Some say at least 10, others believe dozens more. What we do know is how it started. Deborah Jackson, 29 years old. Found on August 10, 1985, just 10 minutes from Lonnie's home. Shot 3 times in the back with a .25 caliber gun. Whoever killed her tried to cover the body with trash, but did a sloppy job. Henrietta Wright, 35 years old. Killed in 1986, also with a .25 caliber weapon. Her body was dumped in an alley and hidden under a discarded mattress. Barbara Ware, 23 years old. Found on January 10, 1987. Her body was fresh, still warm when discovered, because someone had just dumped her in an alley not far from Lonnie's house. But here's the part that'll make your blood boil. An anonymous caller dialed 911 that night. They saw someone dumping her body, trying to cover it with trash. They even described the van the killer was driving. So here's the part that will absolutely wreck you. In Barbara Ware's case, the woman found in January of 1987, someone actually called 911. They saw someone dumping her body, gave a description of the van, and even read off a license plate number. Like, hello, case closed, right, you'd think. Turns out the van was connected to a church. Apparently, the keys were left out and available to anyone who attended. And instead of investigating the church community, or even interviewing anyone at all, the police just didn't. They also didn't take much evidence from the van. It's not even clear if they examined it properly. I get it, this was before DNA and forensics had evolved, but still. You've got a body, a witness, a license plate, a location, and nothing happens. The murders continue. After that, Lonnie kept killing. His next victims would be Bernita Sparks, 26, killed in 1987 with a small caliber bullet. Mary Lowe, 26, also murdered that same year. Both women were found stripped, dumped in alleys, treated like disposable trash, just like the others. The signs of sexual assault were impossible to ignore. Then in 1988, 2 more women. Latrika Jefferson, 22. She was shot through the heart and found under a mattress. A napkin had been placed over her face. On it was a single word, scribbled in ink. Greater than AIDS. Yeah, that's the kind of killer we're dealing with, one who didn't just murder his victims, but shamed and dehumanized them too. Alicia Alexander, 18, shot, naked, dumped under yet another mattress. You'd think by now police would connect the dots. I mean, seriously, mattress after mattress. Alley after alley, all within a few square miles of each other. All using .25 caliber bullets. The Los Angeles Times later published a map showing where each victim was found, and the visual made it impossible to deny. Greater than every murder happened in the same tight radius. Same method, same disposal, same damn killer. Lonnie's job with the sanitation department gave him knowledge of LA that most people didn't have. He knew which alleys were hidden, when the garbage trucks came, where trash would go once it was collected. He used that knowledge to dump bodies where he knew they'd go unnoticed, or worse, be carted off and forgotten. And yet, there was no big plan behind these murders. He didn't leave messages except once. He wasn't taunting police. He was just doing what he'd done before. Greater than treating human lives like garbage. A survivor speaks. Only 2 women are known to have survived Lonnie's attacks. One was Ingrid, from Germany. The other, a brave woman named Anitra Washington. And her story would change everything. That's not my name. The night Anitra survived. It was 1988. Anitra Washington was walking home late at night, heading back from a friend's house, minding her business, just trying to get home. That's when Lonnie Franklin pulled up beside her. He offered her a ride. She declined, politely, but Lonnie wouldn't let it go. He kept asking, and asking, until finally, his friendly tone snapped. He started yelling at her from the car window. Greater than, that's what's wrong with you black women. People can't be nice to you. Anitra was taken aback. She felt guilty. She thought maybe she was being rude. Maybe, he was right. Greater than, I felt bad, she later said. Like maybe I was the one being cold. Classic manipulation, gaslighting. He flipped the script, and it worked. So she gave in. She got into the car. But instead of heading toward her house, Lonnie took a turn in the opposite direction. He told her he needed to stop by his uncle's house to pick up some money first. He pulled up outside a house on a nearby street, got out, and left her sitting alone in the car for about 10 minutes. When he returned, she said something had changed. His entire demeanor was different. Greater than, he was agitated, like angry. Like something had pissed him off. She didn't know what happened inside that house, but when he got back behind the wheel, he called her by the wrong name. Greater than a different woman's name. Anitra corrected him. Greater than, that's not my name. And in that moment, everything snapped. If I die, I'm going to haunt you. Anitra's fight for her life. Everything in Lonnie's car went quiet. Dead quiet. And then, Anitra looked down at her chest. She felt a strange warmth, spreading. Blood. It was blood. She had been shot, but her mind couldn't even register it at first. She didn't hear a gunshot. She didn't see the weapon. She just knew something was wrong. Greater than, I didn't even realize it, she said later. It was just warmth. Then confusion. Then pain. Shock is a strange thing. Panicked, she turned to Lonnie and asked over and over. Greater than, why? Greater than, why did you shoot me? Greater than, please, take me to a hospital. But he refused. Of course he refused. He was never trying to help. She was locked in the car, bleeding, shot in the chest, fading fast. And then, Anitra said something that would stay with her forever. Greater than, if I die, I'm going to haunt you. You are going to have to take care of my kids. Let that sink in. Even in that moment, terrified, injured, and slipping away, she found the fury to fight back, at least with her words. Greater than, hell yes, the storyteller says. Haunt his ass. And she almost did. As her vision blurred and darkness closed in, Anitra drifted in and out of consciousness, losing blood, unable to move. But she remembered one thing clearly. Lonnie kept waking her up. Thank you for staying with us through this haunting and deeply disturbing story. To our loyal viewers and listeners, thank you for your unwavering support. Every watch, like, comment, and share helps shine a light on the victims' voices and keeps these important stories alive. Disclaimer. This content is intended for educational and informational purposes only and is based on public records, interviews, and historical accounts. Some details have been summarized or paraphrased for clarity and sensitivity. Viewer discretion is strongly advised, especially due to the graphic and disturbing nature of the crimes discussed. All individuals are presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law unless otherwise stated.